Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtottara Shatashishima Svangay Sesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj srimadbhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga. Jagannath Tirtha still here? Oh, he's still here, huh? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So, reading from the Srimadbhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 7, The Sacrifice Performed by Daksha, Text 16. Maitreya Vacha Chamabhyavam Samidvangsam Brahmana Chanumantritaha Karma Santanayam Asa Sopadhyayat Vigadibihi Maitreya Vacha Chamam Yaivam Samidvangsam Brahmana chanumantritaha
Manachanumantritaha
karma santanayam asa
Karma Santanayam Asa
sopadhyaya vigadibihi
Sopadhyar Vidadihi
Matevacha
Uvacha
chamapyaivam samidvamsam
Mapyaivam Smidvangsam
Brahmana chanumantritaha
Manachanumantritaha
karma santanayam asa
Karma Santanayam Asa
sopadhyaya vigadibihi.
Sopadhyar Vidadihi
Please chant. Someone.
Maitreya Uvacha Samapyavaivam Smidvangsam
Vidvangsam
Brahmana
Chanumantritaha
Karma Santanayam Asa
Karma santanayam asa
Sopadhyar Vidadihi
sopadhyaya vigadibihi. Would you like to chant? Yeah. You'll pass? Yeah. Okay. Would you like to chant, Damodar Kumar? Maitreya Vacha Chamapyaivam samidvangsam
Brahmana Chanumantritaha Karma Santanayam Asa Sopadhyaya Vidadihi.
Yeah, it's an A. Would you like to? Okay. What about any of you? You could pass, you could chant, whatever you like. So you'll pass? Okay. All right. Word by word. Maitreya, the sage Maitreya. Uvacha, said. Shama, forgiveness. Apya, receiving. Evam, thus. Saha, King Daksha. Midvangsam, unto Lord Shiva. Brahmana, along with Lord Brahma. Cha, also. Anumantritaha, being permitted. Karma, the sacrifice. Santanayam asa, begin again. Sa, along with. Upadhyaya, learned sages. Ritvik, the priest. Adibihi, and others. Ritvik. Translation. The great sage Maitreya said, thus being pardoned by Lord Shiva, King Daksha, with the permission of Lord Brahma, again began the performance of the yajna along with the great learned sages, the priests, and others. So I'll read one more. Vaishnavam yajna santatyai trikopalam dvijotamaha urodasham niravapan veda sangsarga shuddhaye. Thereafter, in order to resume the activities of sacrifice, the Brahmins first arranged to purify the sacrificial arena of the contamination caused by the touch of Virabhadra and the other ghostly followers of Lord Shiva. Then they arranged to offer into the fire the oblations known as Purudasha. Purport. Lord Shiva's followers and devotees, headed by Virabhadra, are known as Viras, and they are ghostly demons. Not only did they pollute the entire sacrificial arena by their very presence, but they disturbed the whole situation by passing stool and urine. Therefore, the infection they had created was to be first purified by the method of offering Purudasha oblations. A Vishnu yagya, or an offering to Lord Vishnu, cannot be performed uncleanly. To offer anything in an unclean state is called seva aparad. To worship the Vishnu deity in the temple is also Vishnu yagya. In all Vishnu temples, therefore, the priest who takes care of the archana vidhi must be very clean. Everything should be always kept neat and clean, and the food should be prepared in a neat and clean manner. All these regulative principles are described in the Nectar of Devotion. There are 32 kinds of offenses in discharging archana service. It is required, therefore, that one be extremely careful not to be unclean. Generally, whenever any ritualistic ceremony is begun, the holy name of Lord Vishnu is first chanted in order to purify the situation. Whether one is in a pure or impure condition, internally or externally, if one chants or even remembers the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, one immediately becomes purified. The yagya area was desecrated by the presence of Lord Shiva's followers, headed by Virabhadra, and therefore the entire arena had to be sanctified. Although Lord Shiva was present and he is all auspicious, it was still necessary to sanctify the place because his followers had broken into the arena and committed so many obnoxious acts. That sanctification was possible only by chanting the holy name of Vishnu, Trikapala, which can sanctify the three worlds. In other words, it is admitted herein that the followers of Lord Shiva are generally unclean. They are not very hygienic. They do not take baths regularly. They wear long hair and they smoke ganja. Persons of such irregular habits are counted amongst the ghosts. Since they were present in the sacrificial arena, the atmosphere became polluted, and it had to be sanctified by Trikapala oblations, which indicated the invocation of Vishnu's favor. Om Gyanativedandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuvannimitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Katitavachalam Pangam Langayate Gurim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinitarinam Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudhi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, Prabhuji, are you old friends with Ramapati? Yeah. From Mayapur? Oh, okay. Did you two grow up together? Yeah. In the Gurukul? Oh, 14 years old. And when he joined, yeah, he was a young boy, 7 or something. But you two lived in the Gurukul together? Oh, okay. You didn't live in the Gurukul? Oh, okay. Okay. But you lived in Mayapur? Okay. And you're from Mayapur too? Nearby. I've heard of Ram Keli, but I've never went there. Yeah. How far is it from Mayapur? Oh. So people from that area are considered to be Bengalis or no? Yeah. Okay. Because I was thinking, Prabhupada made a statement. He said that in order to spread Krishna consciousness, you need the heart of a Bengali mother, and you need the courage of a British soldier. So they say that the heart of a Bengali mother is very, very, very kind, compassionate. So I'll just read the verses again, one more time. The great sage Maitreya said, "Thus being pardoned by Lord Shiva, King Daksha, with the permission of Lord Brahma, again began the performance of the yajna, along with the great learned sages, the priests, and others. Thereafter, in order to resume the activities of sacrifice, the Brahmins first engaged to purify the sacrificial arena of contamination caused by the touch of Virabhadra and the other ghostly followers of Lord Shiva. Then they arranged to offer into the fire the oblations known as Purodasha." So what's been happening in the Bhagavatam is that it's been described in that Lord Shiva was married to Sati. And Sati's father was Daksha. So what happened is there was a particular time when there was a yajna about to happen, and then Shiva was there with all the demigods and many other people. So then Shiva was in trance. He was in meditation. And then Daksha, he walked in. So when Daksha walked into the arena, Lord Shiva just remained in trance. And he didn't, everybody else stood up and offered respects to Daksha, but Shiva was just in trance. So then Daksha got extremely angry and upset, and he started calling him names in public, saying how he's more or less in the mode of ignorance. He has ashes spread all over his body, and he hangs out in the crematorium, and on and on and on like this, completely offending him. So then Shiva, being very tolerant, he doesn't take it so seriously, but his wife does, Sati. She becomes very upset with her father. So then some time passes, and then there's another family, this is a different thing, but there's a family gathering was going on. So Sati naturally wanted to go. She wanted to see her mother and her sisters and her father. So then when she walked in, Daksha didn't even acknowledge her existence. So that's when you know somebody's really upset with you, when they don't acknowledge you. Prabhupada would sometimes, they say that Prabhupada, when he was dealing with his disciples, he would, correct them, sometimes very strongly. But at other times, Prabhupada would just ignore the disciple. He just wouldn't say anything. And that was even harder for the disciples, because it's not that you were getting the attention of the spiritual master he was chastising, but Prabhupada was just not even paying attention to you. So Prabhupada was upset sometimes with his disciples, and they're making mistakes and so on. So Daksha, he didn't acknowledge her existence whatsoever. And Sati, she loved her father. And her father actually, Prabhupada made the point in the purport that her father actually loved her very much. She was like the pet, child. So it was very difficult for her. And then as time went on, she in that family gathering, she just made up her mind that actually I want to cut off all my connection with my father, Daksha. So what she did is she said, with her mystic power, because she was a great, she was the wife of Lord Shiva, so very powerful. So with her mystic power, she just self-emulated her. She lit her whole body on fire. She committed suicide in front of everybody that was there, and she committed suicide. So that's a very intense thing to do. I mean, imagine doing that. I remember when I was in high school, we would read the history book, and they have this picture of a Buddhist. There's a Buddhist, and he's sitting there, in like lotus position, whatever, and he's on fire. His body's on fire, and that was his protest. Somebody told me the other day, oh yeah, maybe we should do a protest that we could go do that, on the street. I'll sit down, I'll light myself on fire, with the idea of people that could protect the cows, be vegetarians. And then you could light yourself on fire and do that, but people are going to continue with their business. It's going to remain the same. So anyway, she did that. She lit herself on fire, her body, and specifically her body. And then at that point, upon hearing about this, Lord Shiva became very angry. He became very upset. And what he did is he created this personality, Virabhadra, huge personality, very fierce personality, to go and kill Daksha and his followers. So Virabhadra went there, and what happened is he actually, like in Kolkata, if you go to Kolkata, you'll see that in front of some of the temples, not obviously Krishna temples, but Durga temples, other temples, you'll see that outside of the temple there's a, whatever you call it, there's a place where, the goat comes, puts the head there. Sorry to be graphic, but put the goat's, guillotine, put the goat head there, and then, they cut right there in front of the temple. So similarly, there was something like that at the sacrifice. And that's what happened. Virabhadra did that. He cut off Daksha's head. And then, he ripped off another person's mustache who was supporting Daksha. He knocked out somebody's teeth. They knocked out somebody's teeth. So they're really, and it says they passed stool and urine all over the... So they made a big mess, killed people, made a big mess. And then from there, Lord Brahma, he came down to pacify Lord Shiva, because Lord Shiva was upset, so he came down and offered prayers and pacified Lord Shiva. And then Daksha, he realized what he did, and specifically they gave Daksha the head of a goat. They gave Daksha the head of a goat. So you got to be careful not to commit Vaishnava aparad. You might get the head of a goat. Or in this particular age, you won't get the head of a goat, because Daksha got the head of a goat, but the brain substance will, turn into the goat brain substance. Means that we commit Vaishnava aparad, offenses towards Vaishnavas, and our ability to practice Krishna consciousness, our ability to understand Krishna consciousness, our ability to be Krishna conscious is just completely annihilated. And our brain becomes like that of a goat. And that we can't understand any of this, and it doesn't become important to us. I mean, when you go to India, or when you go to the local zoo, or whatever you go to the fair, right? You'll see these animals there, like a buffalo or a goat or something like that, and you look into their eyes. Tirtha Maharaj mentioned this many times. He said, you look into their eyes, and there's just nothing there. It's just like complete, In other words, you look into a human being's eyes and there's some life there. There should be, some life there, some energy, But you look into an animal's eyes and it's just, there's nothing. It's like blank, It means just stupidity. So if we commit offenses towards Vaishnavas, we become too offensive, then we may not get the head of a goat, but may get the brain of a goat. So we have to be careful. So this is what's happening. Shiva, or Daksha, he's offering his prayers to Shiva, and then they're cleaning up the arena. They're cleaning up the arena. So, and Srila Prabhupada makes this point that in order to perform deity worship, one has to be very clean. So, whether one has deities at home, or whether one is living in a temple or is doing service at the temple, everything must be very neat and clean. And Srila Prabhupada mentioning there's so many principles in deity worship, and the two main principles he mentioned were punctuality and cleanliness. Those are the two things. Once in Mayapur, devotees asked Prabhupada about deity worship, the elaborate aspects of deity worship. And then Srila Prabhupada said, keep it simple. He said, in the age of Kali, the process is chanting the holy name, not deity worship. So he said, just keep it simple. So we keep it simple, right, to some degree, but most importantly is that cleanliness and punctuality. And for pujaris, I mean, I'm also a pujari. I go on the altar regularly. Pujaris, they have to realize, or they have to remember that, in Kali Yuga it's not just deity worship, it's the holy name. So sometimes pujaris have a tendency just to get really involved in deity worship, and then, when the kirtan's there, it's like, where are they? Where are the pujaris? Or when chanting the holy name, they may not take it so seriously, japa, or whatever the case might be. I mean, book distributors also, sometimes they get so absorbed in preaching and distributing books and all that they may not give so much appreciation towards deity worship or to the deities. And that's the general tendency of people, that they like to go from one extreme to another. But specifically, Srila Prabhupada said we should do both, preaching and deity worship. And he said that deity worship is good because it keeps us clean. Like, for example, when devotees travel and distribute books, like in a van or something, it's very challenging, actually. Challenging to be clean. Sankirtan devotees, men, they're going out distributing books, they have to get milk cartons and fill them up with water, then, bathe like that out in the parking lot or something. So that's challenging. In other words, they don't have proper shower facilities, and so on. I mean, I would tell you this story, but I might have to tell you after Bhagavatam because it's not very appropriate, so you know what I'm talking about. So, but yeah, it's challenging because they're not proper shower facilities, because after one does particular activities, they're actually supposed to bathe. That's a thing within Vedic civilization. After one sleeps for a considerable amount of time, one's supposed to bathe. After one evacuates, one's supposed to bathe, like that. After particular activities, one's supposed to bathe to remain clean. Now someone would say that, okay, well, I am clean. Somehow I've done these things in a clean way. But still, if one doesn't bathe, there's that subtle contamination that happens. It's subtle, so it's gross. So in other words, the gross reality affects the subtle. So whatever activities we do will affect our subtle body, mind, intelligence, like that. So the idea is to remain very neat and clean. That's why some devotees, they don't like distributing books like on traveling Sankirtan, because you can't bathe. You can't bathe properly. I actually had a difficult time doing that, to be quite honest. There's one devotee in Los Angeles. He was a pujari, and he wouldn't even go out on Harinam because he thought he'd get dirty. Because he goes out on the street, and there's all the cars, and then there's all the people, and the dirt, and he just didn't want it. It was just too dirty. He didn't want to go out. He just want to stay back at the temple and, remain close to his achaman cup and to his shower and to the deities, everything very clean. So, but yeah, that's important. Cleanliness and punctuality and deity worship, and also doing deity worship alongside preaching. I mean, if you look at all the great devotees, all of our great acharyas, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, so many of our great acharyas, they all had deities, practically speaking. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had his Govardhan Shila and Nrsingadev deity. So Prabhupada, at one point, he was traveling with Radha Krishna deities. So, or they have a particular deity that they're attached to. So, so this is important because to realize that that Krishna and the deity are, Krishna has came in the form of a deity. So it's not that it's just a statue. It's not a statue or a Murti or something. It's Krishna. And to always, you could say, be in that consciousness that I'm not just offering something to a statue, I'm offering something to Krishna. And in order to have that particular mood, one has to have purified consciousness by chanting the holy names. And specifically for householders, Prabhupada would recommend deity worship. Because deity worship, it keeps one busy, it keeps one occupied. Prabhupada said you could be free from all types of nonsense activities if you engage in deity worship at their homes, the householders. And young children, they should also be taught the process of deity worship, because this is like Srila Prabhupada, when he was a young boy, he was given deities to worship Radha Krishna. So it's important that householders engage in deity worship, and brahmacharis and everyone. It's very purifying. And it could free one from all different types of just nonsense activities. And specifically, the Bhagavatam says, the 5th canto, it says that for one who has become a father or a mother or a guru, or I think it even says relative, it says they shouldn't have become those, or they shouldn't become those, they shouldn't take those positions unless they could deliver their dependents from the cycle of birth and death. So in other words, before one becomes a father or a mother or a guru or any type of superior position, one has to be serious about delivering their dependents from the cycle of birth and death. And if they're not serious, or if they should become serious, or if they're at a particular level of seriousness, because I would say that anybody, practically speaking, who's in that position has has understood it to some degree, that they need to be serious, they should increase that more. They have to get more serious about it. Because people who have been brought under our protection, we have to do everything within our practical means, our possible means, to help them, to save them, to deliver them from the cycle of birth and death. So that means imparting spiritual knowledge, that means them becoming educated, that means teaching them practical things in Krishna consciousness, how to play mridanga, how to play kartals, how to learn the harmonium, how to lead kirtans, shlokas, engaging them in deity worship, teaching them to chant the holy name, and everything, anything and everything we could do to help those persons who are under our protection. Or else it's not good. So we should be very serious about that. So interesting enough is that Shiva, I mean, he's such a transcendental, wonderful personality. But it's interesting that a lot of his followers, it says they're not hygienic, they don't bathe regularly, they smoke ganja, unclean, like that. So it's interesting, because generally the idea is that when someone sees the guru, in other words, a qualified guru tends to have qualified disciples. That's the hope, that's the usual case. But you see, Shiva such a qualified person, but he has so many, he says ghostly demons, Prabhupada calls them, who are followers of Shiva. So, so this is the mercy of Lord Shiva, that he is merciful to the fallen, the extremely fallen people, and he tries to elevate them, and he does. So this is the heart of a Vaishnava, that it's not that the Vaishnavas, like Srila Prabhupada, I mean, I was thinking of Prabhupada, that he came to San Francisco, and there's all these, just exactly like this. I mean, they could be considered ghosts, not bathing regularly. I mean, there was one brahmachari we had here, I won't say his name, but he said he didn't brush his teeth for like, I forgot, I'll have to ask him, but at least 3 months. Can you imagine not brushing your teeth for 3 months? That's just like horrible. Absolutely horrible. So Prabhupada was dealing with such people in San Francisco. We could hardly understand the fallen nature of the people Prabhupada was dealing with. I mean, people come in nowadays to the temple and all the devotees are automatically thinking, oh man, somebody needs to ask this guy to leave. You know, this guy's just like too dirty, too much, like he needs to go. But these are the people Prabhupada was preaching to. If you look at the videos, you see all the different videos. So just like ghosts, you know, completely, whatever Prabhupada says, doesn't bathe regularly, long hair, irregular habits, etc., etc. So, so this is the heart of Vaishnava. Prabhupada was looking out and seeing that I'm going to elevate these people. And that's what he did. He made them Brahmins, he made them sannyasis, he made them pujaris, and a lot of these people, they spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So, whatever our particular, we may not be, by Krishna's mercy, in the category of, you know, people like Shiva's ghosts or followers, but we all probably have our problems. So, but whatever the case is, whatever our particular state of consciousness is, the heart of a Vaishnava, by the mercy of the Vaishnava, by the mercy of devotees, we could be elevated to the highest possible destination. Goloka Vrindavan. So does anyone have any questions or comments? How old is she?
She's 6.
Oh. And how old are you?
9.
Oh, okay. So you two get along? Not always, sometimes? Okay. I have two sisters. So we're 3 years apart. So yeah, I understand that. We used to not get along sometimes also. We used to fight about things. For some reason we used to fight a lot about who would sit in the front seat. It was a big war, who would sit in the front seat. Of course nowadays with all the laws, you have to be of a certain weight and a certain age to sit in front seat. But I think back then it wasn't so strict. And this was when I was a teenager, they were a little younger, so we had a big fight, you know. And then at one point I just realized, you know, when I became a little older and mature, I just realized, who cares who sits in the front seat? I'll just they could sit in the front, I don't care, you know. But we used to, you know, they call it shotgun, you know, they say shotgun. Shotgun means you have to call it. So when you're walking to the car, you have to say shotgun, and that means that you get the front seat. But if they call it before you, that means they get the front seat. So anyways, we'd have big fights over this. It's amazing what you fight over when you're, anyways.
You grew up here in SanDiego?
Yeah, I grew up here. I joined the temple here when I was 18, out of high school. I'm 30 now. Yeah. Maybe we should have got you a coloring book, huh, for the class? Next time we'll give you a coloring book so you could have something to do more. Anyways. So does anyone have any other, there wasn't any questions, but does anyone have any last chance questions, comments? Bobby, you're satisfied? Okay, good. Alright. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.